Top 7 mullets in football including Chris Waddle, Mesut Ozil and Cesc Fabregas. Football and haircuts have a long history with the game's mavericks known to push the boat out when belling up their barbers. And during that wild spandex-fueled decade they called the 80s, it did not take long for the mullet to become synonymous with the very essence of those years. Business in the front and a party in the back, the iconic hairstyle summed up life at the time, but looking back it is probably one of those things that is best left in the past. Nevertheless, some players old and new have been unable to shake off the bestial Barnett, and Chris Waddle is one of such. Celebrating his 61st birthday on Tuesday, one can only hope that his house is plastered with pictures of his past bob. But where does he rank among the best mullets in the business? Daily Star Sport is on hand to give you a blast from the past. We are sitting here thinking what an absolute mess of a mullet Nicholas had on show, despite the Scotsman being known for his flair and finesse. Unfortunately for Champagne Charlie, he played for Arsenal, not Spandau Ballet, though that did not stop him from becoming a top player for the Gunners from 1983 to 1988. Now scrambling for work after being axed by Sky Sports, maybe it's time to bring back the look? There were not many reasons for us to shout about at the 1994 World Cup, having missed out completely, but Bulgaria got themselves some neutral fans from these shores simply down to Ivanov. The defender's curly mullet became the Barnett from the Balkans and would make an appearance 2 years down the line at Euro 1996. Ivanov's time in football was largely spent across a myriad of clubs including CSKA Sofia, Real Betis and Rapid Wien. Modern fans will know Ozil for his silky skills at Arsenal before crashing out after being ostracized by Mikel Arteta, but when he was growing up, the playmaker was one of the best in the business. Coming up through the Shaki Academy, the now Fenerbahce star was not afraid to make an impact, rocking the mullet in his first senior season with the German club. It must have certainly caught the eye, because a few years later, Ozil would be strutting his stuff with Real Madrid, though the hairdo did not make it that far. Another graceful technician with the ball, Fabregas must have forgot about his mullet the way it grew out to almost nightmare lengths. Arsene Wenger was clearly a fan, though, after making the midfielder the youngest Arsenal captain of all time, while the Spaniard would go on to sport some other shocking haircuts, such as the Fallout Boy look and a dodgy soul patch beard that looked more like he had forgot to wipe his gob after dinner. Probably one of the most iconic mullets of all time, Venison's do continued with him throughout the 80s into his punditry days. The mullet itself has its own Facebook page with an almost cultish following that claims his Barnett has powers the likes of which no mortal can understand. It is hard to argue against that, while the former Liverpool defender has recently started a new business called Premier Install Company in the United States that supplies hotels. Our birthday boy must settle for the second place despite his legendary status in the mullet game, where pilgrims would flock from many a mile to see it in action. A true renaissance man of his time, he released a song called Diamond Lights along with then-teammate Glenn Hoddle that reached number 12 in the UK charts. It's pure 80s synth gold. Magic Chris, famed for his ability on the ball, would become a household name with Newcastle and Tottenham before joining Marseille in 1989 and returning to England with Sheffield Wednesday in 1992. Our undisputed top mullet of all time belongs to QPR legend Francis, simply down to his sheer dedication to the do, sticking without throughout his entire adult life. The former Tottenham manager also turned 61 earlier this month and pips Waddle to the title down to the fact his neck warmer has aged like a fine wine. When anyone mentions Francis's name, it is impossible